Welcome for coming back to my channel. This one I'm going to call My History. And we finish with the quotes section. And the next section I'm going to start is going to be on the different phases of government. And I'm going to be working on specific issues to try to get women equal in the society. And during those different ones, whether I'm working with a local county government, a state government, or the federal government, I'll number those accordingly. But the next one will be on local governments, and that one will be the next one coming up. I wanted to kind of summarize everything I've done so far in a lot of my videos because I think that now is a time for people start to learn what's right from wrong. A lot of my life I've noticed there's been people that are doing things that aren't exactly right. And a lot of the things going on in Israel, we hear a lot of people supporting the ones that are doing the destruction. And so I'm going to do this one is going to be called My Life, and it will be a history of the things that have gone on the planet Earth and how people have suffered because people are doing things that aren't right, or they're supporting people who are doing things that are wrong. And there's been a lot of situations where those kind of things have happened. And we're going to go over some of those now. Now, I'm going to only go back a couple hundred years. I'm not going to go all the way back to the time of Christ. I think in my videos I've covered some of the things that have gone wrong there. But we're going to deal with California in the 16, 17, and 1800 years. And this mainly will start out with Father Junipero Serra. Now, Father Serra was a Spaniard. He was raised in Spain. He was born in Spain. And when he was 35 years old, he decided to become religious. He joined the religious organization, and he came to America to help bring the Indians up to speed with what the Spanish were doing during that time. Now, back in the 16 and 1700s, Spain was one of the major contributors in the world and did a lot of good at that time. In 1492, that's just before the starting of the 1500s, Christopher Columbus got support from Spain to come to, he thought was going to sail around the world. He thought the world was round and he was going to be in the East Indies. But instead, what he did, he discovered the whole continent of what is now Canada, the United States of America, and South America. This whole continent that he discovered in his voyage was what was referred to back then as the New World. But when the New World was discovered, there were people already here. And the ones in California were referred to as American Indians. And when Father Junipero Serra felt a calling to come and help the Indians be brought up to speed with what was going on with Spain and the creation of buildings and cultivation of large communities working together for agriculture and production. And so Father Junipero Serra came over. He started out in Mexico, which was totally controlled and owned by Spain at the time. And Mexico had not created an uprising, and succeeded in getting their independence for Mexico from Spain. And so now we're talking at the time that Spain actually controlled a good part of the New World. And that is because Christopher Columbus came over in 1492. And when the Spanish came over to basically raid the American people for the gold that they had, and they had a lot of it, and most of that was turned into Spanish ingots and taken back to Spain. And that's what made Spain one of the richest countries in the world at the time, and remained a power until the naval battle with Britain, where Britain destroyed the Spanish Armada. And that was a shift in power, a major shift in power, and it was a result of a new invention called the cannon. Up until then, we had cannonballs that basically were just an iron ball that when it landed, the destruction it did from being a large round iron ball that hit a bunch of people would kill them. But now some of them came up with the idea of having powder inside the cannonball, so when the cannonball landed, it would explode and even do significant more damage than the cannonball had done up until that time. And when Britain had their ships basically supported the new invention, which were the cannonballs, came up against the Spanish Armada, which was the strongest navy in the world at the time, they were able to defeat them with this new invention of the exploding cannonball. And most of Spain, the ships went down. The soldiers that were on English ships were heavily fortified with armor to protect them in a battle. And it was that weight that took them to the bottom of the ocean when the ship sank. So it wasn't necessary for Britain even to beat the army that was backing up the power that Spain had created, because the soldiers basically were actually killed as a result of the armor they were wearing that would protect them when they were in a land battle. But since they were out on the ocean and the ship sank, there was nothing to keep them afloat, and they went down as a result of wearing the armor. And then Britain became the new powerhouse on the block. But now we're going to go back earlier to when Spain was this powerhouse, and Father Junipero Serra was a human being that was concerned with the American Indians and their life, and the fact that they were a indigenous people that were not up to date with the new power the Spanish had, and he wanted to come to America and help bring them up as a loving human being, teach them how to create agriculture, how to work together, how to build large buildings. And Father Junipero Serra came and built missions starting in San Diego and up California until he got into San Francisco Bay Area. The last mission that was built was in Vallejo. The missions were all the way from San Diego all the way up to San Francisco. And Father Junipero Serra helped bring the Native Americans together, taught them how to make bricks, how to create buildings, and he built the missions that helped support the development and the education of the American Indians, so that the American Indians had an opportunity to come along and prosper with the rest of the world. Now, unfortunately for the American Indians, history had another idea. And that idea was gold discovered in California in 1849, and the newly formed United States of America, which were primarily east of the Mississippi River at the time. They had a new nation, but when a gold discovered in California, they immediately came out, took America away from the Mexicans. Mexico had gotten their independence from Spain by then and were a fairly young country, but the new country of the United States of America just came to California and took the land. And it was primarily the American Indians that were here. There were some Spanish people interested in what they could get from America, but the American Indians were being protected and educated by Father Junipero Serra, and so they were receiving the benefit of the protection of Father Junipero Serra, which were trying to basically Christianize the Indians, and it was one of the Catholic organizations that he joined and was a member of, that he became a father in that organization, and he came out to spread Christianity to the American Indians. Now, unfortunately, gold discovered in California, the United States of America did not give a hoot about the Indians. The Indians were just a impediment to taking over the land that they were looking for gold in. And so they came out and unfortunately annihilated the American Indians. Now, I know that Israel is having a lot of problems, but that kind of things that Hamas did to Israel happened by the United States of America hundreds of years before Israel was able to get their land back. Israel didn't get their land back till 1948, and this happened in the 1700s, that the missions were built, and in the 1800s were destroyed by the Americans and the Indians along with them. So unfortunately, a lot of Israelis have been killed and annihilated by Germany, but they are still around, and let's hope they continue to survive. So we're learning a lesson that not only do you have to be able to protect yourself once you become a nation and you have something that someone else may want, but you've got to be able to defend the land from the people that are trying to take it. And if you can't do that, then you will lose the land and they'll end up with the land. That's what happened in this situation. Now, what we want to do is, the world is small enough now that the borders are pretty well set where they should be. If a nation within another nation wants to get some independence, they're going to have to do what they can to make that happen. But right now, the idea of taking land from another nation is always going to cause a problem. So what we want to do is start identifying how Homo sapiens have to think to prevent us from killing each other off in wars or conflicts that are totally unnecessary. And it doesn't make any difference who owns the land. No Homo sapien is going to live to be 150 years old. So every 100 years to 150 years, the land totally changes ownership. That means that the people who are on the land now were not alive 150 years ago, and they may be descendants, or they may be people that have moved in from other areas to join as citizens to that land. So what I want to do here is to make it clear, make it very clear what we, as a race of people, the Homo sapiens, have to do is to create rules and train our children and our grandchildren to obey the rules, so we stop killing each other off and we stop having unnecessary conflict. The conflict that we have is going to shorten a lot of people's lives and will not add to anything. Now, I have to hand it to Hawaiian Honey for this one, because I have referred to it in the past of being stupid. And I think that it is a very stupid thing to do something that nothing can be gained from. But, as Hawaiian Honey said, that is a derogatory comment. So, deference to Hawaiian Honey. And I've said I want to learn from the women the things that we need to do so that we can now get along with each other without killing each other off. And so I came up with a new word that she agrees with, and it is senseless. Senseless does not have the derogatory term, but it pretty much means the same thing. Senseless and stupidity means that you don't get what you think you're getting. And what we want to do is only have rules and regulations. And these are not religious rules. These are political rules. It's how one Homo sapien treats another one. And one Homo sapien would always allow another Homo sapien to do the same thing that I'm talking about. And that is not to go killing each other off, but it is to raise our concerns that we have about the governors of our nation so that we can improve the lifestyle that each and every citizen of the nation can have. And what we want to do in that way is we are going to piggyback on some things I've already said. I've said destroying is always wrong. And I'm holding that out again, that when you start to destroy, you're going the wrong direction. We need to stop all destruction. We need to bring any conflict out, and the very worst that it can be. And that is only if a group of people thinks that a large amount of people would agree with them, then they can have what we would refer to as a peaceful protest. Now, it's up to the leaders of the protest to make sure none of the people participating or pretending they're participating can violate the rules. You never start destruction. You have your peaceful protest, then you go and negotiate with the people that are in power and say, we have a lot of people behind us. You don't have support to continue the things you're doing. And if you don't figure out a way to compensate the issues that we are concerned about, then that means that you will be removed from office one way or the other, and the majority of people will take over and have what they want. And the idea of moving the people with you is something that should not be able to be done on a whim. The founding fathers of the United States of America realized people are very emotional, and they can get into an emotional state. They can get on a path that can lead to destruction, and no good ever comes from that kind of activity. So we need to end it. It is senseless to do it, so it's time to put an end to it. So when people say, oh, all we are is freedom fighters. No, freedom fighters are people who come to the table and negotiate and show the people in power that they have people behind them supporting their position through peaceful protest. That's as radical as we can be. If you're more radical than that, you've crossed the line, you've become a destroyer, and that is never acceptable. So we want to stop all destruction. We want to start building a world that knows how to get along, that knows how to work out all the problems, and knows how to move forward and make progress. So the political decisions of the majority of the people are always listened to by the leader. And by emphasizing majority of the people, it pretty well says we're going to end all dictatorships. Dictatorships are a bad thing, and they're not the only bad thing. Professional politicians are just as bad. And a professional politician that goes the way of a religious person, which is causing the death or the homicide or the murder of 3 of its citizens, has already moved the wrong direction. It's time for them to get out of power, for them to put someone else in authority and let someone else work out the problem so that the majority of people get the kind of treatment that they want, and they're willing to allow their fellow citizens to also have. So we want to be able to move forward so that all dictatorships are terminated, all religious, supposedly countries have to have a total separation of political and religious teaching. That cannot coexist. It will not coexist. Religion always is the one that will, without a doubt, fall back to the defect of a Homo sapien, which is if it doesn't agree with you, kill it. We cannot allow that any place in the universe, not only our Earth, but any place outside the Earth. It cannot be tolerated. So when we find people that want to destroy, we have to bring them around and teach them destruction is not allowed. And if destroying them is what it takes to keep them from destroying something else, then that is called defending ourselves. And as I said before, when destroyers start an issue, it is okay to pull out all stops and make it look like you're destroying them to defend yourself. You're not destroying them at all. All you're doing is defending yourself. So we need to be very clear on the rules. We need to educate the people coming up what the rules are for politics and religion alike. In religion, any Homo sapien is allowed to think anything he wants to think. But when it comes to politics, there are requirements. And the requirement is you cannot do anything to another Homo sapien that you would not want that Homo sapien to do to you. And if we would follow those kinds of rules, and in my other videos, I've gone through the different things that help us move in that direction, and it will be absolutely necessary to do that. Now, I am also holding out here that if we match what the Philistines did, which is to make the women absolutely equal in the society, it comes built in with the society, so we do not destroy each other. The Philistines went between 4,000 and 8,000 years and did not destroy anyone. It was after the volcano at Thera took the overwhelming majority of the Philistines off the planet that the destruction started becoming built into our societies. And part of that defect I have traced to the inequality of women. It puzzles me when I look at the picture of the earth that I have on my videos, and that has the flags of all the different countries. You can see by just looking at how small the flags are, there may be as many as 2,000 different flags on that universe. That means we have 2,000 countries without one of them allowing women to be absolutely equal. And if we would change that and we would make the overwhelming majority of them equal, we will then realize what the Philistines had that we do not have. And that is the thinking of Homo sapiens that will allow us to interact with each other without thinking we have a right to damage or destroy any other Homo sapien. I know for a fact not one Homo sapien would want them to be attacked or harmed or destroyed. And since they wouldn't want that happen to them, they should not have the authority to do it to another Homo sapien. And if that is all I have at this time, I'm going to have to put an end to this one. This will be the end then of my history. And all my history is trying to point out is we have to make a change. And the history is go back to the history of the Philistines. And that is my history for the future. And I look forward to seeing it happen. I look forward to people joining with my videos and agreeing that that's what needs to happen on the face of the planet. And we need to do it before we get off in numbers, because we don't need to take the senseless attitude into space. So if I've said anything that you agree with, I'd appreciate it if you tell your friends and subscribe to my channel. And with that, I hope to see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.